Lieutenant Jack Cooper stared at the monitor, his fingers tightening around his coffee mug. The blip on the radar hadn't moved for 3 minutes now, hovering just beyond Earth's defense perimeter. It wasn't registered in any database. It wasn't one of theirs. "Are we getting any response to hails?" he asked, turning to Samantha Wells, the communications officer on duty. Sam shook her head, her expression tense. "Nothing. I've tried all standard frequencies and first contact protocols. They're receiving but not answering. The research vessel Horizon wasn't designed for first contact scenarios. Their primary mission had been to study the new satellite defense network, not engage with potential extraterrestrial visitors." Jack ran a hand through his short brown hair, weighing his options. "Alert command. I want a full scan of the vessel." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Minutes later, the main screen filled with a three-dimensional rendering of the unknown ship. It was massive, at least 3 times the size of the largest Earth vessel, with an unusual design that resembled a barred arrowhead. "Sir," called Alan Grant from the science station, "I'm detecting energy readings unlike anything in our database. Their power core operates on principles we've only theorized about." Jack nodded grimly. "Weapons status?" "Unknown," Alan replied. "But given the ship's size and power output, we should assume they're armed." The bridge fell silent as everyone processed the implications. Humanity had wondered for centuries if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was sitting ominously at their doorstep. The silence broke with a sudden burst of static from the communications array. Sam jolted upright in her chair. "We're receiving a transmission." The main screen flickered, then resolved into the image of a being unlike anything they had ever seen. The creature had scaled, reddish-purple skin with ridges along what appeared to be its face. 4 yellow eyes blinked independently at them from above a mouth filled with pointed teeth. "Humans." The word came through the translator with a metallic edge. "I am Commander Zarthal of the Vexari Empire. Your world is now under our protection and control." Jack stepped forward. "This is Lieutenant Jack Cooper of Earth's research vessel Horizon. We don't recognize your authority over our planet. We are a sovereign world." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Sovereign? Yes, as were the 17 worlds before you. Your species is unexpected. We have watched and studied. Your defenses are primitive. Your technology, laughable. We come in peace," Jack said, reciting the standard first contact phrase. "But we will defend ourselves if necessary." All 4 of Zarthal's eyes narrowed. "Defense is futile. Submit now and your population will be treated with mercy. Resist, and we unleash the beast." "The beast," Jack repeated, confusion evident in his voice. "Our scientists have crafted the perfect biological agent for your species, one that targets your specific weaknesses." Sam muted the transmission and turned to Jack. "Sir, they're threatening biological warfare." Jack's jaw tightened. "Get me Earth Defense Command. Now." The next 6 hours passed in a blur of emergency meetings. Earth's Defense Council assembled via secure channel. Military vessels were mobilized, and a desperate plan was formed. The Vexari had agreed to allow a diplomatic team aboard their vessel to discuss terms of surrender. "It's a trap," Jack argued during the final briefing. Admiral Kate Winters nodded solemnly from the command center on Earth. "Likely. But it's also our only chance to gather intelligence on their capabilities, and this beast they threaten us with. Your team leaves in 30 minutes, Lieutenant. Good luck." Jack looked at his assembled team. Captain Lisa Martinez, their diplomatic lead. Security Officer Daniel Reed, former Special Forces, and Dr. Olivia Wright, the Horizon's xenobiologist. 4 humans against an empire that claimed to have conquered 17 worlds. "Well," Jack said with forced lightness, "at least first contact wasn't boring." The shuttle docked with a metallic clunk against the hulking alien vessel. Captain Lisa Martinez straightened her uniform and took a deep breath, nodding to her team. "Remember," she whispered, "we're here to talk peace while gathering intelligence. Keep your eyes open but your weapons holstered." Daniel Reed checked his concealed sidearm one last time before covering it with his jacket. The security officer's expression remained neutral, but his eyes constantly scanned for threats. Beside him, Olivia Wright clutched her data tablet, which secretly contained advanced scanning technology beneath its innocent appearance. As the airlock hissed open, they were met by two Vexeri soldiers. The aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall, their muscular bodies covered in reddish-purple scales that shimmered under the harsh lighting. Each carried what appeared to be an energy weapon strapped across their chest. "Follow," one of them commanded in broken English. "No deviate from path." The human delegation was led through corridors that seemed designed to intimidate. The ceilings soared overhead, making the humans feel small and vulnerable. Lisa noted how the hallways curved in unusual patterns, a defensive measure, perhaps to slow any invading force. "The architecture is fascinating," Olivia whispered to Daniel. "Notice how nothing is at right angles. It suggests their home world might have different geometric principles." Daniel nodded slightly but kept his attention on the growing number of Vexari they passed. Each alien turned to stare at the humans with unblinking yellow eyes. Some made clicking sounds with their teeth that the translation devices couldn't interpret. "They're talking about us," Daniel murmured, "and not saying anything friendly." After passing through what appeared to be 3 security checkpoints, they were ushered into a vast chamber. At its center sat Commander Zarthal on an elevated platform, surrounded by what seemed to be military advisors. "The human delegates," announced one of their escorts. "As requested, Commander." Zarthal rose to his full height, nearly 8 feet tall, and descended from the platform. His scales were darker than the others, with gold patterns tracing across his chest and face. "Captain Martinez," he said, his voice translated by their earpieces, "welcome aboard the Dominion, flagship of the Vexeri Empire's expansion fleet." Lisa stepped forward with practiced diplomatic poise. "Commander Zarthal, we come seeking peaceful resolution to our current situation." A sound like grinding stones emerged from the commander. Laughter, they realized. "Peace is simple. Surrender your world and your species will serve as Class 3 laborers in our empire. Resist and face extinction." Olivia's tablet quietly scanned the room as Lisa engaged in the expected diplomatic exchanges. Daniel positioned himself where he could observe the most territory, noting exits, guard positions, and weapon placements. "You speak of surrender as if it were a mercy," Lisa countered. "Yet you know nothing of our capabilities or resolve." Zarthal circled the human delegation slowly. "We know everything about you. 17 worlds we have conquered, each with their own defenses, their own belief in their specialness. Each fell when we unleashed beasts specifically created for their weaknesses." He stopped directly in front of Lisa. "Your species has unique vulnerabilities we have studied extensively." Daniel noticed a door at the far end of the chamber, heavily guarded. Strange sounds occasionally emerged from beyond it, scratching and what might have been whimpering. "What exactly are these beasts?" Olivia asked, her scientific curiosity genuine despite the tense situation. Zarthal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Biological weapons, tailored to each species. The Krell fell to airborne spores, the Matari to aquatic parasites." His mouth stretched in what might have been a smile. "Yours required special attention. Fascinating how evolution shaped your particular weaknesses." A sudden commotion erupted as a Vexeri officer burst into the chamber, approaching Zarthal with urgent clicking sounds. The commander's scales darkened with what appeared to be alarm. "Excuse me," Zarthal hissed. "It seems we have a security matter to address. My officers will continue our discussion." As the commander rushed toward the heavily guarded door, Daniel and Olivia exchanged meaningful glances. Something had gone wrong aboard the alien vessel, and it might be their only chance to discover what beast the Vexeri had planned for humanity. The diplomatic meeting dragged on as junior Vexeri officers continued negotiations with Captain Martinez. They spoke of resource allocation and human labor quotas as if Earth's surrender was already complete. Lisa expertly kept them engaged, asking detailed questions that required lengthy explanations. Meanwhile, Daniel caught Olivia's eye and nodded slightly toward the restricted door where Zarthal had disappeared. The commotion beyond it had grown louder, with angry alien voices barking orders. "I need to use your restroom facilities," Olivia announced suddenly. "Our biology requires more frequent relief than yours." The Vexari officers looked confused, but eventually assigned a guard to escort her. Daniel quickly added, "I must accompany her for security protocols. Human females require protection." The aliens exchanged glances but agreed, clearly unfamiliar with human customs and unwilling to risk a diplomatic incident. As they were led away, Lisa launched into a complex question about mineral rights to keep the remaining officers distracted. Once out of sight, Daniel disabled their escort with a swift nerve strike, a move taught in special forces for non-lethal takedowns. Olivia helped drag the unconscious alien into a storage compartment. "We have maybe 10 minutes before they get suspicious," Daniel whispered, checking the corridor. "The restricted section should be down this way." They moved quickly through the winding passages, using Olivia's tablet to map their route. Twice they had to hide as Vexari soldiers rushed past, all heading toward the area of disturbance. "Whatever their beast is, it's causing quite a problem," Olivia observed as they reached a security door. Swiping a card taken from their unconscious guard, they slipped inside. The laboratory beyond was unlike anything they had seen. Strange containers lined the walls, some holding bizarre creatures suspended in glowing liquid. But what caught their attention was the central containment unit. Its door hung open, clearly broken from the inside. "Something escaped," Daniel said, weapon now drawn. "Something important." Olivia approached a computer terminal and connected her tablet. "I can access some of their data. They call this project Emotional Devastator. It's designed specifically for humans." Daniel scanned the room nervously. "What kind of monster are we talking about? Claws? Poison? Mind control?" "That's strange," Olivia muttered, scrolling through translated data. "According to these notes, it's based on an Earth species they observed causing extreme emotional responses in humans. They've genetically modified it to enhance those effects." A soft sound came from behind a fallen storage container, a gentle whimpering. Daniel raised his weapon as Olivia moved cautiously forward and peered behind the unit. Her gasp made Daniel rush to her side, expecting the worst. Instead, he found Olivia staring in disbelief at a small golden-furred puppy with oversized paws and floppy ears. The creature wagged its tail tentatively, looking up at them with big brown eyes. "This is their ultimate weapon," Daniel whispered incredulously. "A puppy?" Olivia checked her tablet again. According to their research, they observe humans becoming emotionally compromised when exposed to these creatures. They noted reduced productivity, irrational behavior, and what they called psychological dependence. The puppy tilted its head and gave a small, hopeful bark. "They completely misunderstood," Daniel said, holstering his weapon and kneeling down. The puppy immediately rushed to him, licking his hand and wiggling with excitement. They saw people loving their pets and thought it was a weakness. Olivia accessed the security feeds on her tablet and laughed softly. "Look at this. The Vexari have been trying to recapture it for hours. They're wearing protective gear and treating it like it's highly dangerous." The screen showed teams of armored aliens chasing the puppy through corridors, growing increasingly frustrated as it evaded their capture devices. Several Vexari appeared to be backing away in fear whenever the puppy approached them. They have no concept of pets or human-animal bonds, Olivia realized. They think this is a biological weapon that will incapacitate humanity. Daniel picked up the puppy, which immediately snuggled against him. So their grand plan was to release puppies on Earth and watch us. What? Love them to death. Olivia's eyes widened as the implications hit her. "Daniel, this is it. This is our advantage." The Vexari don't understand the first thing about what makes humans human. The puppy licked Daniel's chin, its tail wagging furiously, while alarms continued to blare throughout the ship. Daniel cradled the puppy in his arms as they hurried back toward the diplomatic meeting room. The small creature snuggled against his chest, occasionally making soft whimpering sounds. "We need a plan," Olivia whispered, checking her tablet to ensure their path remained clear. "If the Vexari realize we found their weapon and aren't affected the way they expected, they might accelerate their attack." Daniel nodded, gently scratching behind the puppy's ears. "What if we pretend it is affecting us? Make them think their weapon works, just not in the way they anticipated." They paused at a junction, pressing themselves against the wall as a squad of Vexari guards rushed past, carrying what looked like capture poles. "That could work," Olivia agreed. "They clearly don't understand the concept of pets. To them, this level of attachment might seem like a debilitating psychological condition." The puppy looked up at Daniel with trusting eyes and licked his chin again. Despite the danger of their situation, he couldn't help smiling. "I think I'll call him Scout," he decided. "He's certainly good at evading the enemy." When they reached the meeting room, Captain Martinez was still engaged in diplomatic discussion, though her expression showed relief at their return. Her eyes widened when she spotted the puppy in Daniel's arms. "What is that?" she asked, interrupting the Vexari officer mid-sentence. Before either Daniel or Olivia could respond, the door slid open and Commander Zarthal stormed in, flanked by security forces. He stopped abruptly at the sight of Daniel holding Scout. "You," he hissed, scales darkening with anger. "You have contaminated yourself with the beast. Guards, secure the room." Lisa looked confused until Olivia managed to establish a private channel on their communication devices. "It's their weapon," she explained quickly. "A puppy. They think it causes psychological damage to humans. Play along. Act affected, but functioning." Understanding flickered across Lisa's face. She turned to Zarthal with a carefully composed expression of concern. "Commander, I see your beast has already been deployed. My security officer has been compromised." Zarthal's four eyes blinked in sequence as he studied Daniel, who was now stroking Scout's fur with exaggerated gentleness. "Fascinating," the commander said. "The effect is more rapid than our scientists predicted. Your officer displays the early symptoms: fixation, physical bonding, vocal pattern alterations." Daniel made a show of speaking to the puppy in a high-pitched voice. "Who's a good boy?" "You are." "Yes, you are." The Vexari officers exchanged alarmed glances. "The cognitive deterioration is remarkable," one whispered to Zarthal. "Just as the research suggested." Olivia stepped forward, scanner in hand. "Commander, as your xenobiologist counterpart, may I examine the subject? We've never encountered this species before." Zarthal hesitated but nodded. "Proceed, but with caution. The effects appear to be spreading." As Olivia pretended to scan Daniel and Scout, she quietly gathered actual data on the puppy. It was mostly standard Earth canine DNA, with some modifications to enhance its intelligence and bonding capabilities. "Captain," she said loudly enough for the Vexari to hear, "Officer Reed appears to be experiencing elevated dopamine and oxytocin levels. His rational faculties are being suppressed by attachment hormones." Lisa nodded solemnly. "Can he still perform his duties?" "I believe so, but he may be compromised in certain ways." Zarthal watched this exchange with growing satisfaction. "You see, Captain Martinez, this is merely a demonstration. Soon, thousands of these beasts will be released across your planet. Your entire species will be rendered docile." Lisa managed to look appropriately concerned. "Commander, surely we can negotiate. This weapon of yours is most effective." Scout chose that moment to yawn widely, showing tiny sharp teeth before curling up against Daniel's chest and falling asleep. "Look at that," Daniel whispered, his genuine affection requiring little acting. "He trusts me completely." The Vexari commander's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. Excellent. The beast has already established control over its host. Phase 1 is complete. As the aliens continued their smug observations, the humans exchanged subtle glances. The Vexari's fundamental misunderstanding might be humanity's greatest advantage, but they would need to develop this opportunity carefully. Lisa returned to diplomatic discussions while Daniel continued his affected behavior, all the while gathering intelligence on ship layouts and security protocols. Scout slept peacefully, unaware of his role as either a terrifying weapon or humanity's unlikely savior. Daniel sat in the small quarters assigned to the human delegation, Scout resting comfortably in his lap. The puppy had been with them for 2 days now, and in that short time had learned to respond to his name and several basic commands. Olivia had confirmed their suspicions. The genetic modifications had enhanced Scout's intelligence beyond that of normal Earth dogs. He's learning at an incredible rate, she observed, running another scan with her concealed equipment. The Vexari designed him to form rapid bonds with humans, but I don't think they realized the practical implications. Captain Martinez paced the room, careful to stay away from possible listening devices they'd identified. Earth Defense Command reports the Vexari have begun positioning satellites around our planet. They appear to be delivery systems. For the puppies, Daniel said, scratching Scout behind the ears. Zarthol mentioned thousands of them. Lisa nodded grimly. We need to find a way to turn this against them. Olivia, what have you learned? Olivia pulled up data on her tablet. 2 significant discoveries. First, the Vexari have no concept of domesticated animals. Their evolutionary history never included symbiotic relationships with other species. They view all other life forms as either threats, food, or tools. That explains why they see pets as weapons. Daniel mused as Scout rolled onto his back, paws in the air. Exactly. But the second discovery is even more interesting. Olivia lowered her voice further. I analyzed Scout's saliva after he licked Daniel yesterday. It contains proteins that are completely harmless to humans, but appear to trigger severe allergic reactions in Vexari biology. Lisa stopped pacing. Allergic reactions. How severe? Based on my analysis of their medical databases, which they foolishly let me access when I claimed to be studying the beast's effects, exposure causes respiratory distress, skin inflammation, and in some cases, temporary paralysis of their motor functions. Daniel looked down at Scout with newfound appreciation. So our little weapon is actually a weapon after all, just not against us. The Vexari handlers wear protective gear when working with the puppies, Olivia continued. They think it's to prevent psychological contamination, but it's actually protecting them from this allergic reaction. Lisa's face lit up with the beginnings of a plan. So if multiple puppies were loose on the ship, mass confusion, Daniel finished, especially if the Vexari don't realize why they're having these reactions. Over the next day, they carefully prepared. Daniel worked with Scout, teaching him to retrieve objects and navigate the ship's ventilation system, which the puppy could access through maintenance hatches too small for the Vexari. Lisa continued negotiations, demanding tours of various ship sections to verify the humane treatment standards for future human laborers. This allowed them to map crucial areas of the vessel, while Daniel secretly planted small treats in strategic locations that only Scout could reach. Meanwhile, Olivia gained access to the puppy production facility under the guise of studying the weapon's effectiveness. She discovered thousands of puppies in various stages of development, all designed with the same genetic modifications as Scout. They're keeping them in sealed environments, she reported back. The Vexari never directly handle them without protection. They've completely misinterpreted cause and effect. They think humans become attached because of some secreted chemical, not because puppies are naturally adorable to us. On the 3rd night of their stay, Earth forces reported that the Vexari satellite network was nearly complete. Time was running out. Tomorrow they'll begin the deployment, Lisa said during their final planning session. We need to act now. Daniel nodded, giving Scout a final practice run through a makeshift obstacle course they'd created in their quarters. The puppy completed it perfectly, following every command with eager intelligence. "He's ready," Daniel said, retrieving a small device Olivia had constructed from modified communication equipment. "Let's hope the rest of his friends are just as cooperative." That night, as the ship's lighting dimmed to simulate night cycle, Scout slipped into a ventilation shaft with Daniel's special device attached to his collar. Their plan to disrupt the Vexari's perfect invasion was underway, resting on the shoulders of one small, golden-furred puppy. Scout moved silently through the ventilation shafts, his small paws making almost no sound on the metal surface. The device on his collar blinked with a soft green light, guiding him toward the puppy containment facility. Daniel had spent hours training him for this mission, using treats and praise to reinforce the route. In the diplomatic quarters, Daniel watched Scout's progress on Olivia's tablet. The tiny camera they'd attached to the puppy's collar showed the maze-like path through the ship's infrastructure. "He's reached the first junction," Daniel whispered, pride evident in his voice. "Look at him go. He remembers every turn." Captain Martinez stood by the door, keeping watch. "Earth Defense reports the Vexari deployment vessels are powering up. We have less than 2 hours before they launch." On the screen, Scout emerged from the ventilation shaft into a dimly lit laboratory. Rows of transparent containers lined the walls, each holding a puppy similar to Scout. Some slept peacefully, while others paced their small enclosures or played with simple toys. "He's in," Olivia confirmed, typing commands into her tablet that activated the second phase of their device. Transmitting the unlock sequence now. The device on Scout's collar emitted a signal that matched the Vexari containment protocols. One by one, the enclosure doors began to slide open. The puppies inside hesitated briefly before venturing out, curious about their sudden freedom. Scout barked softly, a sound they trained him to make when he needed to gather attention. The other puppies perked up their ears and turned toward him. As the first few approached, Scout led them back toward the ventilation shaft entrance. "It's working," Daniel breathed. "They're following him." Within minutes, a stream of puppies was moving through the ventilation system, following Scout's lead. The tablet showed dozens, then hundreds of golden-furred creatures spreading throughout the ship's internal structure. The first alarm sounded 30 minutes later. "Intruder alert" in Section 7, blared the ship's announcement system in the Vexari language, which their translation devices quickly decoded. "Unknown biological contamination spreading." Daniel grinned as the tablet showed puppies emerging from vents all over the ship. Some found Vexari crew members and approached them with wagging tails. Others discovered food storage areas and helped themselves to alien provisions. "Time to play our part," Lisa said, straightening her uniform. "Remember, we need to keep Zarthal distracted until Earth forces are in position." When Vexari guards burst into their quarters to escort them to an emergency meeting, the humans feigned confusion and concern. They were brought directly to the command center, where chaos reigned. Zarthal stood in the middle of the room, his scales flushed a dark purple with anger and stress. Around him, Vexari officers were sneezing, rubbing at irritated eyes, and struggling to coordinate their emergency response. "What have you done?" the commander demanded when he saw the humans. "The beasts are everywhere." Lisa stepped forward with diplomatic calm. "Commander, have you accidentally initiated the deployment sequence prematurely? We haven't yet finalized our surrender terms." "This was not my order." Zarthal roared, then broke into a fit of wheezing coughs. Red patches had begun to appear on his scaled skin, the allergic reaction Olivia had predicted. On view screens around the command center, security feeds showed puppies running freely through corridors, control rooms, and even the engine areas. Vexari crew members either fled in panic or collapsed with allergic symptoms when the puppies got too close. "Fascinating," Olivia remarked, pretending to study the screens with scientific interest. "Your weapons seem to have turned against you." A junior officer staggered into the command center, his breathing labored. "Commander, the humans, Their defense fleet is moving into attack formation. Our weapons systems are not responding. Daniel spotted Scout on one of the security feeds, leading a group of puppies through what appeared to be a critical control junction. Several panels sparked and went dark as the puppies chewed through exposed wiring. The deployment vessels. Zarthal gasped, trying to remain upright as his allergic reaction worsened. Launch them now. But it was too late. Throughout the ship, systems were failing as the combination of puppy mischief and incapacitated crew members took its toll. On the main view screen, Earth vessels moved into position, weapons locked on the suddenly vulnerable Vexari flagship. Perhaps, Lisa suggested calmly as a puppy bounded into the command center and the remaining Vexari officers scrambled away in panic. We should discuss revised terms for your surrender. 6 months after what became known as the puppy incident, Daniel Reed stood in Central Park, watching Scout chase a ball across the grass. The golden retriever had grown considerably since their adventure aboard the Vexari ship, but his enthusiasm remained unchanged. He still runs like he's saving the world, commented Lisa Martinez, now promoted to Admiral after the successful resolution of Earth's first alien encounter. Daniel smiled as Scout returned with the ball, dropping it at his feet and looking up expectantly. In his mind, every game is a critical mission. They weren't alone in the park. Dozens of families played with their own genetically modified puppies, part of the adoption program that had distributed the former weapons to carefully screened homes across the planet. The puppies' enhanced intelligence made them exceptional companions, and researchers were already documenting their potential as service animals and search and rescue assistants. The latest report from the diplomatic team on the Vexari homeworld just came in, Lisa said, showing Daniel her tablet. They've officially ratified the peace treaty. The terms of surrender had been surprisingly reasonable. Rather than conquering the Vexari, Earth had negotiated a cultural exchange program. Vexari scientists were studying human-animal relationships, while Earth gained access to advanced technologies, with appropriate safeguards. And Zarthal? Daniel asked, throwing the ball again for Scout. Still serving as liaison to the Earth Embassy. Apparently, he's developed a treatment for his allergies and has requested to observe what he calls the canine phenomenon firsthand. Lisa chuckled. He still can't quite comprehend why we consider these relationships beneficial rather than debilitating. Olivia Wright joined them, carrying cups of coffee. Since returning to Earth, she had established a research division dedicated to understanding and enhancing the unique qualities of the modified puppies. The Vexari psychology reports are fascinating, she said, passing out the drinks. Their evolutionary history created a society that never developed the concept of mutualistic relationships with other species. Every interaction was based on dominance or submission. Scout returned with the ball again, this time dropping it at Olivia's feet. When she threw it, he barked happily before racing after it. That's what they couldn't understand about us, Daniel reflected. The Vexari saw our capacity for forming bonds with animals as a weakness to exploit, never realizing it was actually a strength. In the months since the confrontation, Earth had changed in subtle but important ways. The knowledge that they weren't alone in the universe had initially caused panic, but the comedic nature of the Vexari's miscalculation had helped humanity process the revelation with humor rather than fear. The first Vexari cultural delegation arrives next week, Lisa mentioned. They've requested a visit to the National Dog Show as part of their itinerary. Daniel laughed, picturing the reptilian aliens trying to comprehend the concept of humans, judging animals on their appearance and behavior. That should be interesting. As the sun began to set over the park, families gathered their puppies and headed home. Daniel attached Scout's leash and began walking with his friends toward the street. You know, Olivia said thoughtfully, the Vexari might have accidentally given us exactly what we needed to enter the galactic community. How so? Lisa asked. These puppies, they're more than just pets now. They're a symbol of what makes humanity unique, our ability to form connections across species boundaries. Olivia smiled as Scout trotted proudly beside them. The Vexeri called it our weakness, but it might be our greatest diplomatic asset. Daniel nodded, remembering the confusion on Zarthal's face when he had tried to explain the concept of a good boy to the alien commander. Who would have thought, he said, reaching down to scratch Scout behind the ears, that the fate of our planet would be saved by a puppy. Scout looked up at him with intelligent eyes that seemed to understand every word. His tail wagged steadily as they walked through the gathering dusk, a small but significant reminder that sometimes the greatest strength comes in the most unexpected packages. In diplomatic circles across the galaxy, the phrase "unleashing the beast" had taken on new meaning, a cautionary tale about the dangers of misunderstanding another species' true nature. And on Earth, thousands of golden-furred puppies with slightly enhanced intelligence continued to do what dogs had always done best: remind humans of their capacity for love and connection in an increasingly complex universe.